Good morning, students. So, today we will start our next chapter, that is transportation in animal and plant. So, before that, you should follow some appropriate behavior, wear mask, follow physical distancing, stay at least 6 feet from other, wash your hands frequently, always with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, and remember to not touch your face. Do not share your foods or drinks with others. So, topics to be covered in this lesson are transportation in animals, circulatory system in human, excretory system in human, transportation in plants, and all. Transpiration. So, what do you think? What do you think the transpiration in animal and transportation? Sorry, in animal and plant. So, transportation means carrying something from one place to another. So, it is something which is common to all plants and animals also. Now, I will give you some example which will tell you yes, plant transportation is also needed. For example, you think of food. So, why do we eat food? Because we need energy. When I say that I need energy, who actually needs energy? Each and every cell of my body needs energy, whether it is a cell which is present in my hand or a cell which is present in my foot. So every cell of my body needs energy, because every cell in my body is doing a lot of activity, is doing a lot of work. So when I take food, the food enters in my mouth, then in my stomach, the intestine, it get digested, and what after that, the food that got digested in my stomach and intestine, then it goes to all cells, each and every cells of my body, to produce energy. So who is going to transport that food from intestine to different part of the body? Because if you look at our head, it is quite far from our intestine. Okay, so who is going to transport that? So that is called transportation. So food is just only one example. A lot of food and other substances, for example waste product, which are produced in each and every cell of our body, is going to transport. Okay, so that it can be excreted out of our body. Okay, so basically transportation is something which is extremely important. So a lot of things, good or bad, needs to be transported to different parts of our body. So internal transport, when I talk about transportation, I'm not talking about the vehicles, buses and all. I'm talking about the transportation inside our body, and it is created by the circulatory system. So circulatory system is one beautiful example of transportation, where we will see how different substances, for food, hormones, how they get transport to different body part. One such is transport of oxygen. That means that oxygen, when taken in, it reaches in our lungs. Then from lungs, they actually need to be transported to different cells of our body. Transport of water to each and every cells, food, hormones. So circulatory system is the first thing which we are going to discuss. Now a lot of question in your mind. Okay, so I got to understand there is something who is transporting all these substances. For example, when we want to transport our furniture from our old house to a new house, so we have vehicles who carries those furniture from one house to another. But in this case, in the circulatory system, what is that substance which is actually carried various substance to different part of the body? How this take place? And this circulatory system can also have a lot of issue which might give rise to circulatory disorder. So if one part of the circulatory system is not functioning properly, it might give rise to some problems to the overall system. So here we are going to spend some time to understand the circulatory system in more details. Okay, this entire lesson I have divided into different video. So in the first, second, third video we are talk about animal circulatory system, and then we'll discuss about for human being. Okay, and then we will talk about plants also, and then and other systems which help in transportation. Now any discussion on circulatory system has to start with blood, because blood, as you all know, is that fluid which flows throughout our body. So it is an excellent medium to transport substance from one part to another part. So it is something like this. Suppose you have bus. That bus is also have a bus route. So that bus is covering all the places in your city. So that bus is excellent medium of transportation. That means you want to go anywhere, that bus is definitely going to cover those places. So in other words, we can see that blood is the who actually help in transportation. So let us talk more about blood. Let's see what is blood. We all know what is blood. You get a cut, what happens? It starts bleeding. You see a red color fluid coming out of your wound. So that red color fluid is nothing but blood. So blood is the circulatory medium. It is a circulatory medium through which substances get circulated throughout our body. It is a fluid connective tissue. Why connective tissue? What is a connective tissue? A type of tissue which connects two different parts of the body. So blood cell is flowing from one part to another in a way. So it is trying to connect two places. Okay. And it consists of 78% water and 22% solid. So this solid be protein, lipids, amino acids. So all these things could be the solid which is present in the blood. But almost 70% is nothing but water, and that is why it is so much like it is very fluid and very easy to flow from one place to another. So blood, being a fluid, can actually connect different systems of our body by transporting gases, digested food, hormones and waste materials to different body parts. So that's how the blood. You see, it is the most important thing for the circulation inside our body. So blood flows from your feet to your head, or from head to your toe, and to your hands, everywhere. So it reaches to every corner of your body, each and every corner of your body. So if you see the circulatory system in our body, there are separate red and blue line. So it indicate the blood which is rich in oxygen, and so one is the oxygenated blood. The red denote the oxygenated blood, and blue denote the deoxygenated blood. That means the blood which is rich in carbon dioxide. So it carries the blood to different body part, because that is a good blood. And deoxygenated, it is come from the different body part, because all the body parts are given out their carbon dioxide. So that blood is rich in carbon dioxide, and it is very important that we keep these two separate, because oxygenated should not get mixed with deoxygenated blood, because one is needed by the cell and other one is thrown out from the cells. So that is why they are distinct. And how are they flowing in different tubes? Because different vessels which carry these different blood. So there are specific vessels to carry oxygenated and specific vessel to carry deoxygenated blood. As we go ahead to we will get to know all these things in details. Okay. Now let us try to understand the composition of blood. Let's know more about blood first. Okay. So what is blood made up of? For this, a simple experiment will perform where a sample of blood is is taken and centrifugation is performed. What is centrifugation? It means to move an object in a very high speed. So when we take blood in a test tube, let's take a sample of blood. So this is a when you start so you have inserted this test tube with a blood sample here. So when you start centrifuge, this will start rotating very fast in a very high speed. It will keep on rotating like this, and when it moves in such a high speed, what happen is the denser components in the blood, they tend to move away and the lighter components stay near to the center. So this is the center where it move in a circulate part. So the denser component will move away and the lighter component will move near to the center. So as a result, after some time, what you will see is that the blood is segregated into two parts. So the lower part of the test tube consists of the denser components of blood, and the upper part contain the lighter component of blood. So this division of the blood components based on their density happens due to centrifugation, because when you move them into a very high speed, the denser component will remain at the bottom because they are very heavy, dense, they cannot move, whereas the lighter component, they being light, they try to come towards the center, they remain at the top. So that's how the blood, people found out that the blood is not just one particular liquid, it is also made up of different components, some of which are very denser, some of which are lighter. Okay. So let us look at the various components of blood which we obtain after performing centrifugation of the blood sample. So let us look at the same blood sample which was obtained after the undergoing centrifugation. So we saw it in three different layers. So first layer is plasma. So here ये ऐसे था, it's a first layer, then a second thin layer, and this is the red color dense layer. So the first layer should have been like here only. So this entire thing is the same. Okay, so this three layers, and this is the second layer, this is the third layer. So this is called plasma. This layer was the plasma. And what is plasma? Plasma is not red in color, but it is found to be some creamish color. So okay, plasma was not red in color. So this component of blood is not the one which is responsible for the red color of the blood, because we see blood as red, because this plasma is not red in color. And when you look at it is present almost 25% of the total volume occupied by plasma. So it is more than half of the test tube was covered with plasma. That's why I said that cream color, it is like a cream color. It should be more than half of the test tube. Then in between there was a thin buffy coat, a buffy layer, you can kind of a structure. So this is the second layer, and this comprises of less than 1%. Less than 1% of the entire volume of the test tube. And this puffy coat later found to contain two components of blood, that is white blood cells and platelets. They are not even though present in large amount, but they play a very important role. We talk about their function later. And the third layer, which is red in color, and that is RBC, that is red blood cells. So they constitute almost 45% of the total volume of the test tube, because this is the most dense of all the other components. So they are present at the bottom layer. Okay. So the blood actually consists of all these four components. So first is plasma, next is red blood cell or erythrocyte. It is also called erythrocytes, and then WBC called white blood cells, or it is also called leukocytes. And the fourth was platelets, which is also called thrombocytes. So if I ask you, out of these four, which component contribute to the red color of the blood? Red color of the blood. So of course it is red blood cells. And why this is red? Because of the red color pigment or hemoglobin, and we have learned about hemoglobin in our previous lesson, that it helps in the transportation of oxygen because it has very high affinity for oxygen. So that is about the various component of blood. So let's start with plasma. So plasma is the extracellular matrix. Big term. Extra means outside. Cellular means it means cell, something which is outside the cell. Okay. So when you look at the blood is again consists of different components. So the entire matrix, that is entire background or medium, is filled with plasma. So plasma is basically a fluid which filled the entire space. So I'm trying to give you a common examples. Let's suppose it is your room. Now inside this room, you have one chair, you have one table, one sofa, and what about the remaining space? The remaining space is filled with, say, air. So in the similar way, in case of blood also, blood consists of very different components. Red blood cells are present, WBC present, platelets are present, and all these remaining space or extracellular space are filled with the plasma. So look at the composition of plasma. It is 90% water. So that is the composition of water. And remaining around 8 to 10% consist of proteins, and some 2% consist of electrolyte or nutrients. So that is the composition of plasma. So it is a fluid matrix on which blood cells are embedded. So whether they are white blood cells or red blood cells, they are all embedded in the plasma. So plasma is like, you can say, the blood cells. I'll take an example of cakes. Like cake, in cake you have a lot of things like dry fruit, cherries, and they are all embedded in the spongy cake. So similarly in the plasma also, which is present inside the blood, in that plasma all the cells are embedded. Okay. So composition wise, it is 90% water, 8% protein, and remaining 2% hormones, electrolyte, nutrients. So it is like a watery fluid. So this plasma is basically give the fluidity of the blood. So blood can flow smoothly. So because it contain almost more than half of it is plasma, and plasma contain 90% of water. So that is its fluid behavior. So have you ever observed that when you get hurt, it starts bleeding, and after some time the bleeding stops because the blood has formed a clot there, and that clot block the further bleeding, further flow of the blood. So in that blood clot formation, this particular protein which is present in plasma contributes. Another important and that protein is known as fibrinogen. So this protein help in blood clotting. Next protein is globulin, and it helps to fight against infection. It protects our body. And third important protein in plasma is albumin. So this protein helps to maintain the osmotic balance, that is water balance. The right amount of water has to be present in every part of our body. So these are the various protein which are present in the plasma. So So those proteins which are present in plasma are all those protein, and that way plasma is composed of. So we'll discuss RBC, WBC and platelets in next part. Okay. Thank you once again.